Okay, so Rise of Skywalker finally released as the final episode in the sequel trilogy and Skywalker Saga. So yeah, this is going to be a spoiler-free section at first. I'm going to have the spoiler-free section, and then I will give a spoiler warning when I move into spoiler territory. So I saw the movie yesterday at a premiere, so I want to give my thoughts on the film, what I thought about it, and how was it. So this video is going to be in a different format. It's going to be mostly uncut. It's probably going to be on the longer side. I don't have a script or anything actually. It's just going to be my thoughts, so I might go on some rambling sessions. So yeah, Rise of Skywalker, what did I think of it? Now, I thought that the movie was pretty good. Yeah, surprising. I thought it was pretty good. I thought Rise of Skywalker was, it was a good movie. It was a good Star Wars movie, which was really important. This movie, it was much better after, Last Jedi. You can't talk about this without talking about The Last Jedi. The Last Jedi just split people apart. Um, I wasn't the hugest fan of The Last Jedi, and I actually rewatched all the Star Wars movies building up to this, and The Last Jedi was definitely one of the weaker of the bunch. It was really underwhelming. It wasn't that good. So yeah, this I feel like it fixed the mistakes that The Last Jedi made. So yeah, um, it fixed the mistakes The Last Jedi made. That's good. So when I walked into this movie, I only watched the first two trailers. I didn't watch the final trailer. I didn't watch any theories, any guesses, any trailer analyzations. I watched the first two trailers, and I watched the clip that came along at the end of The Mandalorian episode 7. It has a clip from the movie. It's pretty near the beginning, which was nice to know that they didn't just, give you the last 5 minutes. Um, so I went into this movie pretty open minded. So I really enjoyed it. It was really enjoyable for that. I didn't know what the plot of this movie would be. I only watched the first two trailers, and I didn't like rewatch them. And yeah, so yeah, I didn't know what the plot would be. So it was nice to see the plot. I thought the plot was good. The movie, the structure was really well structured. The opening and the climax and ending were quite enjoyable. Really, there were just some parts in the middle that they didn't feel like they were on the same level as the rest of the movie. So that's really one of my problems. Is there were some parts in the middle that just felt kind of off. It was a fast movie though, which is good. There wasn't any parts where you like, come on, waiting for something to happen. There were just parts when you wanted it to, you know, there were just some parts that felt a little off. But yeah, that's really as much as I can say without getting into spoiler territory. I enjoyed the movie. There were some parts of it that I didn't enjoy as much as the rest, but overall, definitely really good. It's redeeming from The Last Jedi, definitely. So yeah. So now I'm going to move into the spoiler section of this review. So Rise of Skywalker. It was shocking, to say the least. Again, I didn't watch any theories, so I had no clue that Rey would be a final spoiler warning. I had no idea Rey would be a Palpatine. That was a really nice twist. I liked how they went back on the stuff in The Last Jedi and they almost kind of retconned it. They fixed a lot of the mistakes of The Last Jedi. instead of Rey's parents being nobodies, and she's just super powerful for no reason. They make her Palpatine, which still, should she have been this powerful without training? No, it doesn't make sense how she fought Kylo Ren in The Force Awakens, and she just didn't even have training with a lightsaber, and she beat him. Um, this movie doesn't fix that. It can't fix that. What it does is it gives an explanation as to how she was so force sensitive and how she was so powerful. Again, one of the other mistakes it fixed is Luke throwing the lightsaber over his shoulder, which, we had 2 years of build up. We're just waiting for this moment, and Luke takes the lightsaber and 2 years over his shoulder. And then the rest of Luke's arc in that movie was very disappointing. They had so much potential. Anyway, this isn't a Last Jedi review. As Rise of Skywalker. So they fix that when they have Luke come out and say, Rey goes to Act 2 and she's burning Kylo Ren's fighter and she throws the lightsaber in it. And Luke comes out and he says, that's no way to treat a Jedi weapon. They deserve more respect than that. So, fix that. They said something about the Holdo maneuver. They said, the Holdo maneuver was a 1 in a million. So I think that was J.J. Abrams trying to fix it, although it still doesn't really work. If you had a 1 in a million chance to take out the Death Star with a single X-Wing, you would take it. And if you can definitely see them trying to fix The Last Jedi's errors, which I really liked, because The Last Jedi had a lot of errors. I don't think The Last Jedi was the worst Star Wars movie, though. I keep talking about The Last Jedi. But this movie does, it's very, after what happened with The Last Jedi, this movie had a lot of expectation. So, what were my thoughts on Palpatine, with how they handled it? Right from the opening crawl, this movie tells you that Palpatine is back, that he's a threat. And I really enjoyed that opening with Kylo Ren going to find the Sith Wayfinder and meeting Palpatine. And we get to see him, and he's just this loud, first of all, he's this loud, booming voice throughout this huge temple. And we see these Snokes. So, people didn't like how Snoke didn't have an origin. I didn't enjoy that either. I wanted to know, the First Order, what is this? And we see that Palpatine created Snoke. There are like 4 different Snokes in a tube. And he tells Kylo Ren this, and we see him, and he's this disfigured, even more disfigured than he was when we last saw him in Return of the Jedi. His fingers are like cut off, and he's got scars and black all over his face. And it's really, really great what they did with Palpatine. And he's overpowered in this movie. Another slight problem I had was it seemed like they were making the Force extremely powerful. The Force heal kind of felt like was being used too much as a plot device. But I don't think that dampens the experience of the movie. I still like it. So Palpatine just shoots this lightning up into the air and takes out like a whole fleets upon fleets upon fleets of ships. And it's really nice to see that. Yeah, so Palpatine is taking out fleets and just tons of ships. He's taking them all out after he sucks out the life from Kylo Ren and Rey. And I really like that. I think it just showed how powerful he is because ever since since the Phantom Menace through Return of the Jedi, Palpatine was like the most powerful Force user. Anakin would have been if he didn't lose the fight with Obi-Wan. He still was the chosen one. He had all these Force abilities. But yeah, so I really liked how they showed Palpatine's power here and what the Sith can do. And he's saying he has all the Sith in him, and Rey has all the Jedi in her, and they go and they fight. And one of the things I love is how they both die in that moment. Rey kills Palpatine, and Palpatine kills Rey, and it shows complete balance of the Force. Like right there, the light isn't more powerful than the dark. There is only complete balance in the Force, and I really love that part. I really love it. But of course, Kylo Ren comes back and he heals Rey, and then he dies. Um, yeah, so that was I like Kylo in this movie. He was really a step up from just an angsty, angry man running around. He had a lot more depth to him. He wants to be in control, and then his redemption arc with Leia was nice. Also, seeing Carrie Fisher, you can tell it's recycled footage, but it's nice to see her. Obviously, you can tell that it's old footage because her lines are really short and simple and vague. Um, they could mean anything in any different context. But it was really nice that they found a way to fit her into the story. I'm sure if, Carrie Fisher didn't pass, that they would have had her have a much more large role. She probably would have been a lot more important. The Force Awakens was about Han. Last Jedi was about Luke. So Rise of Skywalker was probably, it wasn't about Han and Luke, but they were the main they were in the backdrop, pretty large roles in those movies, so I'm sure Leia would have had a big part in this one. But sadly, Carrie Fisher did pass. But it works, and she brings Kylo Ren back to the light, and that's how he becomes good in this film. And he goes to Palpatine. I also really liked how they showed this Force connection between Rey and Kylo and how powerful it is. One of the things though is that Snoke claims that he was the one who connected them together in The Last Jedi, and Palpatine created Snoke. So it wouldn't make sense how he was keeping this connection between them. So I believe what happened is that they eventually grew into it themselves, and they could, do it themselves, and it wasn't necessarily Palpatine anymore. Or maybe it was just an error that they didn't notice. Um, but yeah, C3PO, seeing his memory wiped was really, it's C3PO, and now his memory is wiped. But it does get restored later, an older, much older version. Um, you know, so he still does remember Luke. But yeah, I think that side plot with C3PO not being able to say the language of the dagger. I wasn't the greatest fan of that. The Sith dagger had Sith language, and C3PO just couldn't say it because plot. Uh, but yeah, he couldn't say it actually because he wasn't allowed to translate it due to his programming. Um, yeah, I thought it was okay, but the story moved forward in a nice way, and we really got to progress the story nicely. Also, General Hux is treated as more of a character than comic relief, and then he is immediately killed off after he makes the only uh, character based decision he's ever made. Then he immediately dies. Maybe I think the movie was better off without him. I didn't care about General Hux at all, so seeing him die, I was like, yes, we got more time for the other characters. Um, finding out that Leia did in fact train with Luke and she had her own saber was nice. And in the end of the movie, when Rey creates her own saber that's yellow, I heard it was orange, but it looked yellow at my theater. That was cool to see. Definitely, they're gonna be rolling those out soon to make some money. I'm sure at Disney World and Disneyland, they already have $500 Ray lightsabers stored up and back. Um, yeah, so seeing Leia go back, and it ends where it all began at the Skywalker household, where Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen lived. And this lady comes up, and it's never made quite clear who she is. She could be Beru. I don't think Beru sort of survived though. It could be any old lady. And my only problem is she asks who she is and who Rey is, and Rey says she's Rey Skywalker, with the Force ghosts of Luke and Leia in the distance. Um, I don't necessarily think that she should consider herself a Skywalker. Um, that line I'm sure gave the movie the name Rise of Skywalker. I think the movie could have been better suited just called Rise of Palpatine, just because this movie is about Empress Palpatine as he refers to her, which is also a really great line, and Emperor Palpatine himself, their rises and how they clash together. So I think that would have been a more fitting title than Rise of Skywalker, because the Skywalkers actually aren't present that much in this film. Ben is brought back though, but Ben is so I guess the Skywalker blood did rise in some way. But yeah, overall, I really enjoyed this movie and how it went. Um, I thought it was a nice ending. Um, it was satisfying. The binary sunset at the end, the binary sunset from A New Hope is my favorite scene in all of Star Wars. So seeing that at the end of this was really great. I really liked that ending. And her burying Luke and Leia's sabers. Obviously, they're setting up something else. Um, you know, do I think they should make more Star Wars movies that aren't anthology films? No. But yeah, I still enjoyed this, and I think it's definitely worth watching, and it definitely fixes a lot of the errors that The Last Jedi made. Also, Rose was a very minimal character in this movie that made me very happy, because I did not like her character development or arc at all in The Last Jedi. The Last Jedi Canto Bite sequence is infamously just horrible. So it was really nice to see her have a minimal role. Her dialogue wasn't nearly as garbage in this film. Um, yeah, so I really liked Rise of Skywalker. Not the best Star Wars movie, not the worst Star Wars movie. Definitely enjoyable, definitely worth the watch. So that was my Rise of Skywalker review. Yeah, that's all I have to say.